it is.
All right, hello and welcome everybody. We are live with the doctors here in Synergy Solutions, where we go live every week at Wednesdays at noon. We talk about energy, frequency, vibration. We talk about how we can help people from a distance. We go over science. We talk about the nature of holistic life force energy, holistic healing, and specifically, we have all been trained in a technique called Corin specific technique. We're all doctors of chiropractic, board certified in our respective countries and states, and we apply these tools and techniques in our physical hands-on practice as well as right here, right now. We're going to get into the healing in part two of the whole conversation, but right now we're getting started, and we're talking about the field today. What is the field? How does it impact you? Does it, and what is going on with this whole thing? And we've had this discussion in some parts before, and I'm going to share it with. There's a video that Dr. George goes into a nice explanation, and we're going to expand on that conversation here in just a second. I do have the chat up, so say hello. I'm going to say hello real quick, and I'll share some links as we go. But hopefully the volume's coming in through loud and clear. How's everybody doing there, the doctors? How we doing, everybody? Say hello and make sure you're coming through. All right, all right. let's get this video started. I'll share it with everybody at home, and then I'm gonna share it with the doctor so they can see everything they need to see and hear everything they need to hear. We are live, so pardon me if there's things that pop in the windows. And here we go. Let's start from the beginning.
It's field. A region of activity is what the word field means, a region of activity. So what's causing this standing wave to be appearing as physical form? We're a standing wave, a wave of energy. And because it's not a moving wave, it's a standing wave, well, there's obviously intelligence there. Now we're back to the triune of life, intelligence, energy or force, and matter. And then Albert Einstein talking about how what physical matter is just a condensed form of energy. So it's all energy. It just doesn't all look like energy in the conventional sense.
In the conventional sense. So
that was pretty good.
Okay, so I'm going to pause that. George, that was great. And I want to pose a question right away. The human body is a standing wave. Let's expand on that thought. George, I'm going to have you start because, well, this is where we started.
Well, we've all experienced, maybe we've all experienced an ocean wave or a wave on a pond. You drop a rock in the water and it causes energy to make the water go up and then go out and move. But under certain conditions, you can introduce energy into, let's say, a pool of water and cause, instead of a wave to go up and move, it just goes up and stands still. So instead of a moving wave, you have a standing wave. It's been theorized, and I think rightfully so, that's what we are. There's this innate intelligence in the body creating a wave, a standing wave. Maybe it's just an isolated field into which the physical matter of our body accretes. So a standing wave is like if you're looking at an oscilloscope and it's all moving and all of a sudden you tune it so it just stops and stands. That's what a standing wave is, and that's what we are.
Okay. And it makes me dive into the thought. I'm going to pull up this again. It makes me dive into the thought of what causes that wave. That's where my mind goes. And now I think we're talking on the level of the soul here, something inhabiting this physical form. I dare say. But Vesna, Sasha, please comment on the video or what Dr. George just said. Sasha, I'll start with you. I'm going to pick you first. I'm volunteering you what to go and to contribute. This idea of a wave, this idea of a field of energy, the idea of the human body has a field of energy around it that is integrating all of us. This is the conversation that basically I'm wanting to help connect dots between people's thoughts, people's feelings, the intention of, for example, Dr. Herbert Benson, the Mind Body Harvard Mind Body Institute president, talks about how prayer affects people. These types of things. Lynn McTaggart, she had all these experiments that talked about intention, and we're talking about energy, frequency, vibration here, and we're working on that level in the work that we do. So, Sasha, what comes to mind when we're talking about these things?
I'm not quite sure how to verbalize it. Perhaps each of us is like, as going back to what George said, we're like individual drop water, but we also belong in the ocean, part of the ocean, and we're also individual drops. The sort of that's my best offer, I think.
I love that because I've had that thought. I've said that same thing, and it's how do you wrap your mind around that? That's the thought, and we have experiences with this, and where my mind goes with that is the random number generator experiments. Is when big events happen in the world, everyone's awareness is on that thought. One of the biggest examples now is September 11th, in the United States back in 2001. Pretty much the whole world had tuned in that day, and there was a big focus. But other events, other major things occur. Different world events occur, like the Olympics, things of this nature. And when a group of people have an awareness, or in certain instances with prayer, there is an effect on the outcome of the situation. What was the effect? Sasha, we spoke about before, the Maharishi effect, I believe it's called. Is that right, Sasha?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah, but it's all the same thing. Whichever group interprets, it's the same in principle. It's not owned by, it's not owned by an organization. I don't think it's just
No,
a principle.
it's an understanding that we have to give it a name at this didactic level. We have to communicate an
We have to
idea.
label it.
Yeah. It's a very but it's a very much a. Go ahead.
I was just a bit short of verbalization. I know what I'm thinking, but I couldn't verbalize it very well.
Well, I know I put you right on the spot. I'll tell you that. It's not like we've been studying it for the last 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm used to it.
I've been thinking about it all
That's what I
morning.
come here for.
And so here we have this Maharishi effect. It's been given a name by a group of people that want to study this phenomenon, and that's how we relate these ideas through our communication. Though I feel to me, it's a very much a feeling experience. One can begin to notice those subtle layers of what it is to be alive, and as one tunes into that, you can feel these changes. You can feel these fluctuations. And this is where I think this is where the conversation of the law of attraction starts to come in, and setting one's intentions and that. That's for another conversation another day. But let's bring it back into the field, and I want to bring it back into personal healing, and we're gonna connect that. I have another short 1-minute video to show everybody about how we here are able to affect the field, and specifically you as an individual at home, and how there is a shift. We can help you become more resilient and more adaptable in today's environment, which I believe is highly needed. But that would be said. Dr. Vesna, your thoughts about the field and human health and what's going on there?
When I think of the field, I like to connect it with the work of Bert Hellinger, Family Constellations. And it's really the way to, if one wants to see the power and intelligence of this ever-knowing field, this is the way to do it. And for me, I have had the most profound, most amazing experiences through this work. I found it just amazing how all our emotions traumas stored, and how that can be invited in when needed for the healing purposes. So it seems like the healing intention is always there, surrounding us. It's just tapping into it and activating it, inviting it.
Wow, that is a phenomenal
That's cool.
awareness. What is the, if you could, please repeat the gentleman's name and the name of the therapy? You said constellation therapy?
Yeah, family constellations,
Yes,
developed by Bert Hellinger.
thank you. Family
And
constellation.
Dr. Chen, who most of us have met, he highly recommends this work as well.
Yeah.
He's had experience with this.
Well, he's actually transformative in my life. He's the one who showed me the Air OD back years ago. So I know he's on to a lot of forward thinking. And thank you for sharing the family constellations.
What did you say he showed you?
Oh,
OD?
the OD without
right. Okay.
without touching somebody.
Right.
And
okay.
the one-handed. And for those that are not in on this internal conversation of what is the OD, this is the technique that Ted Korn and KST teaches of how to tap in and use this. Many of you are already using it, whether you've taken KST or not. The pendulum. People just get a feeling, that sixth sense of it's wrong or it's right. But Dr. George, I see you got the skull out. The OD was originally found in the chiropractic sphere, and it has to do with the occipital bone. And what was noted, and Dr. George, please add to this, is that when we set the intention of finding what a yes answer is and what a no answer is, and one side of the occiput would drop, and this occurred naturally as some doctors were discovering and testing things, I believe. Dr. George, please expand on the OD.
That was about it. I think there's a doctor who was taking care of his 8-year-old son who was on the table, probably about to die. And he asked in prayer for some kind of an answer. And somehow he asked a yes or no question. And when and the yes answer was that the occiput dropped down on the left side a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we utilize that, we'll put our hands on the back of the skull and wave them down while asking the question or challenging the body. And as the skull is dropping down, which I've never actually seen, the field of that person is changing, and that changes my field, which drives the thumb down, which is sort of how we can do the occipital drop, the air occipital drop, because that field is everywhere to a certain extent. So we don't have to see the physical bone drop. We can just pick it up as our thumbs are dropping down and do it from across the room.
Yeah, and now we're getting into technique, but the later when I was taught, very much in the beginning, it's very heavy on the palpation. The pressure is there, and the answer became more and more clear the less pressure I had on the physical head, and then that just began to expand into the off the body realm, and then in my other trainings that are outside of chiropractic, well, that's very very common, in the Reiki world and whatnot. So here's what I'm going to shift the conversation next to, because the question I sometimes get is, well, how does this, what we're doing over the internet and what we're doing in and not in physical proximity, is how does this make a change? And one of the ways I like to share is what's called resonance, and this has to do with vibration. So I do have another video. And again, it's short. I queued it up. Hopefully everything is in the right spot. So let me get everyone flipped over to the right spot right there. And let's see here. I'm gonna make it look a little better on the other side. All right, here we go. Now this is a school teacher, who's demonstrating a science experiment.
Something called resonance. You can hear sound waves, obviously the sound of my voice, but you can see the effects of waves in the form of tsunamis and earthquakes and several other things as well. This is a great way to sort of demonstrate this to your students. It's very simple to use. All you do is make sure your hands are clean. You don't want any lotion or oil on your hands. Dip your hands in the water, rub them together a little bit, Okay? And what you want to do is start a slow back and forth motion. Notice you can hear sound waves, and you can see the vibration in the form of what the water is doing. Same thing that would cause an earthquake or a tsunami.
All right. Well, hopefully we got the gist of the idea of something causing a friction, and then all the different layers of our reality are interacting with that friction, causing these waves. George, your thoughts on what you just saw there and how it applies to what we're doing?
Well, yeah. So he's vibrating the bowl with the friction of his hands, and that's vibrating the bowl. So that's moving the water. It's imparting energy from a metal form into a water form.
Right.
So you can transfer energy from the hand to the metal to the water, or like he said, sound waves. We can hear those waves too.
Yeah. No, this to like connect the dots. Like we had the friction on the bowl, but then there's something that caused him within to make that movement. So all this force that came from thought into physical form and into we saw it in other ways. George.
Right, and the bowl is a physical medium, so that's easy for people to perceive. I think that how we're doing remote work is through a different medium. We might call it ether or something like that. It's more subtle, but it's still there.
Okay, 1 second here. Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Well, apparently we're getting there's no sound. Okay, well that might just be the video. Hopefully you can hear this going on. If anyone else is going on with that no sound, well, I'm not sure that's happening at, but hopefully we're getting good. But George, thank you for the explanation. Yes, and agreed. And the reason I brought that up is because we use this instrument here and this technique, and not everyone uses it. We can use our physical hands, and that's what we're going to be doing here in a moment, different forms of fashion. And let me just check one more thing over here on my end. But let's see. Whoa, everything changed. How about them apples? All right. Yes, we are live. All right. It's a beautiful thing. All right. So, and maybe I need to get a whole studio. Like I need to rent a whole studio with the whole crew. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
All right. Desktop audio. You guys are talking. Okay, we're doing all right. So, and I got the conversation. The sound is just back on. So maybe there's some funky things happen on the internet. That is for sure. So let's continue. We're going to be going now into the next phase where we talk about intention and we go into the private members area. So we're going to make that switch right now. And hopefully that you got some value out of what we talked about today. You expanded your consciousness about what it is to be a human being and how things are interconnected. I want to thank everybody else. Dr. Vesta and Dr. Sasha, anything else you want to add before we flip over to the other side? Yay or nay? All right, good. Thank you, Sasha.
Very forward thinking. I wish I'd had a teacher like that when I was at school.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I love sharing this information. I love personally learning it. I'm fascinated by this whole conversation. And Dr. George, anything else you want to add before we wrap up for anybody?
Oh, just a weird aside. I was riding to work the other day, and somebody was throwing out a couple of perfectly usable kitchen pans. And one of them looked a lot like that bowl. It was a metal pan, had two handles on it. So I'm going to try that later on with the water.
Well, that's some interesting synchronicity. Go for it. I love it.
Yeah, right? Coincidence?
No, I tell you what, when there's synchronicity happening and I'm seeing certain things and it just demonstrates there's a deeper meaning of life going on, and I just keep following those signs. So that's a delight for me as well. So thank you, everybody. Give me a moment. We're going to flip over to the private members area. And tune in next Wednesday at 12 noon for more of the same.
Do it.